Where did you grow up?
I thought this was an entrepreneurial.
It is. I'm getting it.
Oh. I grew up in Watkins Glen, New York.
Okay. And what did you study?
Business administration.
Okay, so you've kind of always been in the business. Did you ever see yourself starting a business, or did you ever want to?
Yeah, my dad owned his own business, and I used to work for him, Channel Communications, and I was working there 3 months, and I said, I don't like this at all. And at the time, the Uptown Cafe, which is where Morning Sun is, was for sale. So I said, well, maybe we'll look at that. So we ended up owning it. I was so discontent where I was working with Clear Channel that, and I grew up as a short order cook when I was a kid. I've been cooking since I was 14 years old. So I had a knack for it. One of the glaring holes in town at that time was Italian. Everybody's, where's a good Italian restaurant? And nobody could really answer that question. So, when I opened the cafe, and a few months later, Pat and Mike came in, and they were patrons of Patterson's Cafe uptown. I said, I have an idea for another restaurant. And they said, well, great, we'd like to hear about it. They were both retired. Mm-hmm. Pat retired from the Gray Steak and Potato Company, which he founded, and Mike Sheffin just retired from Procter & Gamble. There was no business for sale in town. Who knows what I would have been doing. But
and then on top of it, you also have Crew, which you just opened in
October of last year.
So different target market for each one of your businesses.
In a town of this size with a university attached to it, we're trying to mass appeal. Our target market is anybody that's in town. A couple things that I have that a lot of people don't have, and if you compare my businesses to, anything uptown, I've got part. Not being on High Street has provided us different opportunities. It's provided us a little bit more of a, open marketplace for us to deal in where, because we'll get locals. I probably do a bigger percentage of local business than anybody else in town. Uh-huh. And a big function of that is parking booths. How
do you assess both economical and social impact of your businesses in Oxford?
In my mind, I've always been a protector of the food. Meaning, if I do a good job with food, everything else will kind of fall into place. Mm-hmm. My goal was always to provide a better experience, entertainment-wise. We try to offer quality food. There's no way I could do a bar at Patterson's Cafe in Stewart Square. Right. It wouldn't go. It's mm-hmm. just not in the hood.
Is there any measure of success that?
People ask me, how's business? Well, business is okay. It can always be better.
Right.
We kind of measure our success on the daily sales, and that's a very, statistical way to look at it, and it's really not a good way to look at it in my estimation. I really try not to worry about the numbers. Mm-hmm. I think the numbers will come. If you do the right thing, the numbers will come. Mm-hmm. My goal is to just keep focused on what the product is, make sure the product is good, inspect what you expect, focus on the priorities that are important to the customer, mm-hmm. and I think everything else will come.
What are issues that you've faced starting any of your businesses?
Well, startup capital is always an issue, but, labor is always a challenge, mm-hmm. Hiring the right people. There's no lack of bodies. The question is, do you have the right bodies in place? You need to be willing to put everything on the line. Mm-hmm. Forget weekends. There's no such thing as having a Saturday and Sunday off. You have to put sacrifices with your family.
Last question. What are the 3 most important things that you would like to point out to anyone else who would be starting a business?
Well, it's not going to come by accident. Mm-hmm. Everything I've gotten, I've done myself. You can't hide from work. Mm-hmm. You can't be afraid to work. The most important thing you do is focus on what's ahead of you and do that job. That you can't take anything for granted. The only way you're going to get it is to earn it. Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you can hate from outside of the club. You can't even get in. Leg out. Look at me now. Look at me now. Oh. I'm getting paper. Look at me now. Oh. Look at me now. Yeah. Fresh to the wall. I don't see how you can hate from outside of the club. You can't even get in. Leg out. Look at me now. Look at me now. Oh. I'm getting paper. Look at me now. Oh. Look at me now.